Bangor, Maine. I am the owner of Inner Greatness Center. For those of you who haven't tuned in before, I'm a physician assistant. I work in emergency medicine. I've done so for 14 years, but now it's really my goal to help bridge the gap between modern and alternative medicine. So anyway, today, first of all, I hope you guys had a great weekend. I actually traveled west to California, Anaheim to be specific, and attended a great conference on nutrigenomics. Had a wonderful time and decided I'd take the red-eye flight home on Saturday, hoping to get home and enjoy some time with my family on Sunday. Didn't work out that way. So like I said, I'm coming to you from Bangor, so I had to fly all the way from the west coast to the east coast. The red-eye was uneventful. It was great. Caught a few Z's there. Landed in Philadelphia. Definitely not my favorite airport. It's crazy. I've had a lot of crazy things go on there. And ended up getting on my connecting flight, thinking I'm heading home to Bangor, hung out on the flight for an hour, then they taxied back to the airport, and the flight was canceled due to weather I couldn't even see. Like, they said that supposedly there were thunderstorms, and so I was unable to get out. I was traveling with my mom, thank goodness, and we had an adventure. We stayed overnight in the airport, so oh my gosh, I was up for almost 48 hours. It was insane. But I'm here, back, ready to share some hopeful content with you guys. Now, if you read the header to my video today, wanted to talk to you about autoimmune disorders. So often now in the emergency department and in my wellness center, I'm dealing with people that are suffering from things like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Sjogren's syndrome. You know, you might have an autoimmune disease that's undiagnosed because, you know, about 700 million Americans are suffering from autoimmune disorders, but these things, they're pesky. People have all sorts of very weird symptoms, and there aren't a lot of tests to definitively diagnose you. So the diagnosis process, it's a long time in coming. So many of you have autoimmune diseases that are otherwise unspecified. So we don't know exactly what the title is, but we know you're suffering from, you know, chronic pain, dizziness, weird rashes, just like joint discomfort, just a lot of weird symptoms that are unexplained. And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it's the third leading cause of illness here in the United States behind coronary artery disease and cancer. So it's a big deal. And being a woman, 78% of these cases are women. Okay, so what causes these? You know, we just say autoimmune disease, right? But what does that really mean? That means that our immune system actually, it misidentifies our tissues and our organs as foreign. So then it develops antibodies that attack these tissues and organs and cause problems. So essentially our immune system is very powerful. We need this to attack, you know, bacteria, viruses, foreign invaders. But when we suffer from an autoimmune disorder, bad things can happen, and they can happen super quickly. Now, about 80 different autoimmune diseases, they exist, but what causes them? So first, we know that there's a genetic component. So not really much that we can do about our genetics. We also know that there is an infection component. So specifically in type 1 diabetes, we've studied that a virus sometimes attacks the pancreas, affects the beta cells, which beta cells are what secrete insulin, and that this results in type 1 diabetes. So again, genetics, illness, but thirdly, it's environmental issues. So are you exposed to certain toxins? Specifically, what are you putting in your mouth? I know that you guys probably knew I was going to talk about, you know, what you're putting inside your mouth. So we know that excessive inflammation, it's linked to all of these autoimmune diseases. Okay, so when a doctor diagnoses you with an autoimmune disease, what are they going to do? They very often do not think of the root cause of the issue. I know that because I work in modern medicine. That's the problem. So they might put you on a super fancy, super expensive immune modulating drug, which modulates the immune system, so it suppresses your reaction to the antibodies. So you might have diminished pain, but guess what else you have? You have a huge bill because these drugs are super expensive. They're synthetically derived, so there's a lot of interactions with other drugs. A lot of times they don't work. There's a lot of side effects. And frankly, they lower your immune system, which is already compromised, which increases your risk for a lot of weird opportunistic infections. So probably, don't you think it would make more sense to address the underlying root cause of this inflammation? Okay, I do. And I know that what we're eating definitely has a huge correlation to these symptoms. So there's something that we can do. Adhering to a plant-based diet can help to decrease inflammation. Now that is addressing the underlying root cause of something instead of slapping a pharmaceutical on top of it. Okay, so food, it definitely can be a very strong, powerful tool in treating inflammation. Now, all autoimmune diseases, they're a little bit different. There have been published studies looking specifically at vegan diets, which are whole food, plant-based diets, showing that they can improve the signs and symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. There are similar studies looking at the fact that adhering to a plant-based diet decreases the C-reactive protein. This is an inflammatory marker that we measure through laboratory studies. So this is amazing. So we want to decrease inflammation if we want our symptoms of these autoimmune diseases to improve. What's another thing that we can focus on? We can focus on gut health, okay? Gut health is so important. Have you guys heard of a leaky gut? If you've heard of a leaky gut, put an emoji down below, because leaky gut, this is when the intestinal lining, it loses integrity. And so that allows the passage of bacteria and toxins into our blood. This, again, triggers the development of autoimmune diseases. So we want to prevent leaky gut, right? Okay, so what we can do to do that is, number one, eat a diet rich in fermented foods. I don't know if you guys have tried kimchi. It's kind of spicy but super yummy. Kombucha, it's becoming a big hype now. People are making it. I see you guys posting about it on Facebook. Sauerkraut. So eating fermented foods is one way. Another way, definitely, everyone needs to be taking a probiotic. Okay, probiotics, unfortunately though, they're not all created equal. I would recommend that the probiotic that you take also contain a prebiotic. Prebiotic is what feeds the probiotic. Probiotics love fiber. So I specifically take a probiotic that contains beta-glucan, feeds the probiotic, and I know that this probiotic, it delivers 60% of the probiotic into the gut. See, this is the problem. Most probiotics that are sold over the counter, you think you're doing yourself a huge service. You're taking this, you're gonna start feeling better, but 4% of that probiotic is probably being delivered into your gut. That's not so helpful. So definitely finding a probiotic and a prebiotic that's helpful. Eat more anti-inflammatory foods. Write this down, guys. So first of all, leafy greens, kale, mustard greens, broccoli, cabbage. These are great. These are rich in calcium. These are also decreasing inflammation at the same time. Mushrooms. Did you guys see my video on the chaga mushroom with the chaga man? Right, this is super rich in superoxide dismutase, which is also an anti-inflammatory enzyme that your body's able to produce on its own. So again, an anti-inflammatory. So mushrooms. Onions. Onions are high in something called quercetin. Quercetin is an antioxidant. So again, helps to eliminate or decrease the amount of inflammation. Squash. I love squash. So squash is high in omega-3 fatty acids. So these again are important. Add some spices to your cooking, right? Have you guys heard of turmeric? Turmeric, we know, decreases inflammation. There's been several studies looking specifically at turmeric and rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel disease, psoriasis, all of which have an autoimmune component. The next thing, what are 3 things that you should avoid? Number 1, gluten. Okay, so celiac sprue, it's an autoimmune disorder characterized by the inability to tolerate gluten. But most people that have tons of inflammation or an autoimmune disease don't do well with gluten. So adhering to plant-based, but also watching gluten intake as well. Number 2, sugar. Sugar is just nasty. So this too contributes to an influx or an increased production of inflammation in your body. And number 3, animal products. So meat, milk, eggs, etc. So if you adhere to a plant-based diet, you're going to decrease inflammation. There was a study that I looked at specifically looking at someone who consumes a large amount of saturated fat. Saturated fat comes from animal-based products, okay? Guess what happens? The level of inflammation in the body, it increases over the next 4 hours. So those of you who are doing this keto thing and putting putting an animal-based product at every meal, it's problematic because you're in a constant state of inflammation. So again, I'm not asking you to go completely crazy, eliminate all animal products, but hey, if you could just increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables, maybe decrease gluten-containing products, so watch your grains, I think you'd feel a lot better. And maybe even eventually start doing maybe a meatless or animal product-less Monday, and then doing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, slow and steady. So what are the things? Let's just recap. To decrease inflammation and to feel better, because that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to feel better. Like, do you just have all these weird symptoms that your doctor is telling you that your tests are coming back normal, but you know something's not right? This could be you. So think about adhering to a plant-based, whole food diet, okay? Go to my website. I've published quite a few great, yummy, super simple recipes. Take a probiotic and a prebiotic. Make sure that it's a good one. Message me if you have questions. Think about taking an omega-3 and an omega-7 supplement. Again, this helps to decrease inflammation and promotes great cardiovascular and vessel health, brain health in your body. Think about supplementing with vitamin D. We know that vitamin D deficiency leads to a lot of disease. And then again, focus on the science of nutrigenomics. Again, if you're not taking a NRF2 activator, you need to get on one. If you haven't seen my video on oxidative stress and NRF2 activation, privately message me. I can send you over the YouTube link. Anyway, hope you guys have found this helpful. If you know someone who's suffering from an autoimmune disease, please share this with them. I think too often they go to see their primary doctor, they've got 15 minutes, they get pushed onto a pharmaceutical, and they don't talk about lifestyle modifications. So these things are super important. I appreciate you guys, I appreciate your support, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.